Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship.
Turning towards each other and being curious about the other's experience, and knowing that we are able to connect.
Many a times, Dixon and myself, when we look at the 4 children, we thought that we are the one blessing them, and many times we know they are the one bring us immense amount of blessings.
如果你还那么坚持、那么执着，为了这些事情而闹得面红耳赤，那也还真的是对不起大家，也对不起自己了。就我觉得，
不值得啊！
对啊，对啊，就好好的珍惜这段可以当一家人的这个缘分。
缘分。
Sometimes the bully was probably bullied themselves.
It's very important. We want a journey with people who have experienced bullying. But I think we also want to understand, why bullies bully.
I kind of moved away from a traditional mindset to kind of run my own business now. It's fully attributed to whatever my dad has done in my young age.
What happened to these victims is that they did not have any empowerment. Someone forced sex on them. And so the helping process must reaffirm that sense of empowerment.
What I propose is upstream, to create an environment, a culture whereby we can talk freely with one another, address those issues in a friendly, loving way.
In order for advocacy to work, you have to work together with other people who share the same objectives or the same values.
Feeling stuck in a place, you actually don't know how to climb out of the hole, or you didn't know that you can actually just reach out a hand and someone might just help you by pulling you out. Find those linkages, those connections whereby you can seek help.
Something was taken out of you, and until you address that vulnerability in a single safe space, only then could the colors be brought back into the worlds that you live in.
Dear Amazing You,
every individual wants to experience love, care, meaning, and purpose in life through supportive and nurturing relationships.
Our calling is to change stories and transform lives.
We are no more than ordinary people who aspire to do no less than extraordinary things.
At the heart of it all, we are connected with one another.
Everyone is community and community is everyone.
Everyone has a voice and every voice should be heard.
With compassion, empathy, and enthusiasm, we will journey with you to make sense of life's experience.
Together, we make the present a hopeful place.
Love, joy, and peace. LCCS.
Hello and welcome to REALink, which promotes real conversations about pertinent concerns. REALink is a virtual conversation series where we'll be engaging our special guest today and you, of course, and together we hope to explore various topics that matter in our society. The theme for this year, 2021, Rebuilding the Community, where we seek to reconnect with communities that have been adversely affected by societal issues, exploring what has and can be done to break the cycle of hurt. Now, REALink is also a campaign to raise funds to support the work that is being done by the Lutheran Community Care Services, otherwise simply known as LCCS. And as a non-profit social service agency, LCCS has been actively engaging and empowering individuals and families to build and sustain relationships. Now, focusing on restorative practices, LCCS has served and continues to serve families, schools, institutes, residential homes, and various organizations to restore relationships that have been harmed and, of course, connecting communities together. It may also interest you to know that LCCS is a full member of the National Council of Social Service and has been accorded Institution of a Public Character status. And with that, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Augustine Antoine, and it's both my pleasure and privilege to be your host and moderator for the REALink Conversation series and online fundraising campaign alongside the speakers who will be sharing today. And with us today, Dr. Jasmine Yeo, and you have Jasmine over there, and Dr. Karen Pooh. You ladies could just wave to our viewers. And we're going to bring them on shortly. So thank you both for being with us on the REALink Virtual Conversation series. Today is the 9th session in our series. Yeah, believe it or not, it's the 9th session and it's titled Mental Wellness in the Digital Age. And every fortnight on a Friday, just like this, we've been featuring, and we will continue to feature, local and international speakers who will share their perspectives on different topics. And this series, which kicked off in June, will run till November. And here at LCCS, we all believe in creating a safe and meaningful space for our speakers to talk about what matters, which is why we'd like to invite you to stay connected with LCCS. You have all these chat functions on your program, and also to try and perhaps even explore connecting with one another. And most certainly, we'd like to involve you in today's discussion, so you should take a moment to write your comments into the chat box that you have on your program. And we'd like to also seek your kind-hearted donation. Please use the QR code that will appear at the bottom of your screen, and it will also be in the comment section. And you'll be glad to know that all your donations will be eligible for a one-for-one matching, as REALink is part of the Toad Board Enhanced fundraising program. And all donations above $10 are eligible for a 250% tax deduction. And having shared that, it's now time to kick off our session on mental wellness in the digital age. This is session 9 in our REALink LCCS 2021 Virtual Conversation series. And so once again, let's warmly welcome Dr. Jasmine Yeo and Dr. Karen Pooh. Ladies, I decided to frame this first part of our section and to talk about the evidence that is out there. You're both professional practitioners. You both come from your own practice. Mental wellness in children, young people and young adults in the digital age. To kick off, I basically just want to invite both of you to share what are your key messages that you would like to bring to the table today. Perhaps we can start off with Jasmine. Over to you, Jasmine.
Okay, so my 3 key messages is moderation is key. Don't demonize technology, and unplug to recharge. A little bit of internet use is positive, while excessive use has a negative impact on mental well-being. Especially in today's day and age, during the COVID period, where isolation is real, or sometimes we are apart from our family members, technology does really help in trying to connect our loved ones and also promote communication to seem as if we're not that far away. Unplug to recharge. Sometimes, especially when we're working from home so much, or when we're using technology so much, we really do need to have time to unplug, to connect with and have real interactions with families, especially with our children, you know, when they don't really connect with us, they will connect or plugged in to the internet or to something else. What about you, Karen?
Thanks, Jasmine. And my key messages also gel in very well with yours. So my 3 key messages are connection and awareness of having this balance. And the second key message is this sense of common humanity. And the third one is having this self-kindness and compassion. So going back to my first point about having awareness of balance. So we are all living in this hyper-connected world, right? Be it to study now for HBL or to work, having lots of Zoom calls or just connecting with friends and family. And I think it's really important that we disconnect from social media or say Zoom, etc., just to connect back with ourselves as well. So for instance, being aware of what is happening with our thoughts, our feelings, and our bodies too. And my second message is, having this sense of common humanity. So while we are very connected with social media, for instance, Facebook, Instagram, or even, LinkedIn, it's very normal and typical for us to start having this negative social comparison. So for instance, you might look at Instagram and say, wow, this person is so much hotter than I am, or this person is going on holidays and I'm stuck in Singapore, right? Or in LinkedIn, you might think like, wow, this person has so much wisdom to share and I don't, right? So just having this sense of, how our brains are really wired for survival rather than happiness. So it's this sense of, common humanity that we are all subjected to these negative social comparisons. Okay. And last but not least, my third message is on self-kindness. And when we, start to feel quite strained from, connection to this digital world, when we realize that we are suffering, to offer ourselves compassion as well. Yeah, that's all from me for now. Back to you, Augustine.
Thank you so much. I'm smiling more because of this. We did a little practice run earlier to have this coordination, and so it's working beautifully, ladies. So thank you so much, Jasmine, and thank you also for Karen. And for all of you who've just tuned in, we're discussing mental wellness in the digital age. And just in case you haven't seen it yet, you probably see it on your screens by now. They're both doctors in their respective professions. They're both psychologists. Correct me, ladies, if I make any mistakes, all right? Since we brought up the word compassion. So if I make any errors, please help Augustine and educate me, and we'll move on. But between the two of you, there are 6 key messages that are already out there floating. And I myself have been taking down notes as I listen to both of you. And of course, I had the pleasure of meeting both of you prior to today's program, and we had a great chat. It also gave me a chance to learn some new things. So I went online and I pulled up a couple of quotes. And so let me just walk through one of this, and then I'll come back to both of you. And by the way, for all of you who are watching and listening to us, do put in your questions into the comment box, or you can even challenge the panel if you had an important point that you want to raise. Let's make this truly interactive. But for children and young people today, being online and using social media have become an integral part of their lives, as you both rightly pointed out. The reliance on digital technology has fueled concerns from parents, teachers, governments, and even young people themselves when they start to talk about what their experiences are, that digital technologies and social media are exacerbating feelings of anxiety, depression, even disturbing the sleep patterns, leading to cyberbullying and even distortion of body image. Now, I know both of you doctors talked about the good side of the internet, and let's not demonize it as Jasmine said, but unfortunately, there are all these effects that are coming in. And from the research that I did, the statistics are quite alarming, and you are more in touch with this. So maybe once again, could I throw it back to you, and perhaps we'll reverse it. Maybe Karen, you want to kick it off, and then we'll hear from Jasmine. Your thoughts on what I've just shared.
Thank you so much, Augustine. Yes, in my practice, I do see quite a number of people, not just teenagers, but also adults. Yeah, sort of having this perhaps experiencing negative maybe mental health issues because of social media. So for instance, they might start to compare themselves with others, thinking that others are looking better or have more maybe material possessions, or just having a higher social status than them. And this can lead them to experience perhaps depression and anxiety. And also it disrupts their sleep as well. So I think many of them tend to just keep scrolling through social media, and their sleep patterns are affected. So what I experience is that we have to actually do a lot of sleep hygiene, and also talk about routine as well, right? So in order to improve their mental health. Yeah. And also some teenagers or young people right now, they communicate very differently from my time, right? So right now, a lot of them, I understand from my clients and my students, that they actually would start to, have squabbles over stories, like Insta stories, right? So for instance, if person A is upset with person B, person A would write about it in his or her story, and then when B sees that and gets upset, responds via stories in Instagram. So this is also another sort of unhelpful way that is happening due to social media. Yeah. And Jasmine, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. When social media is used as a form of social comparison, everything looks very pretty, right? Everybody just want to one-up each other. And that is the bad side of social media when it's used very mindlessly, and everything is a facade lah, because people don't really post like if they have a bad day or anything really very negative. Some of my clients I know, they have two social media accounts. One to show the world, and one is a more real and authentic account of their life, right? That they don't show the world. There's also the part about the point that you mentioned, where there's a lot of times people can also use social media, like other platforms, to anonymously call out other people. And behind the screen, people are bolder. They are also like keyboard warriors lah. So there's also a lot of harm that can be done to an individual, which can also lead to a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this cancel culture, right? Something that is very common now.
Yeah, it definitely is, because the screen also shields the identity of the individual, right? They can merely just come up with a username and nobody can really identify them. So there is this like a false protection to be.
So if I could just come in at this point, ladies, I mean, it was fascinating listening to both of you. So just to pick up on what Karen said about the phone, and it's actually not even with children, even teenagers and even adults. We are in our bed, we have the phone, and then we keep telling ourselves, okay, I have to go to sleep, and then we put it down on the side. And then a few minutes later, we get up, take it up again. I mean, this is all in the darkness of the room, and then we start scrolling through again. Why is it so hard to put it down? That's one question. And then, Jasmine, you talked about the two accounts. It's so real, because when I used to work in a media company and I had to hire young producers, it took them a while to trust me and say, "Oh, Augustine, I have this account, but I can't show you the other one because I said a lot of things there which I wouldn't want you to know." And also, it took them a while to finally trust me, and they said, "Okay, I'm going to let you see my other account where I say things that are very different from me." It's like two different personalities, but it's very real. I hear you, and I want to link what you said about the phone and the technology and the two different versions, and bring this into the next part of our discussion. We're doing very well. Seriously, all one needs to do is just Google mental wellness in the digital age, which is today's topic, and you will come across numerous examples, panel discussions, talks, and even apps, phone apps. And yet we hear of parents who are in denial, because both of you are doctors, you meet clients, you meet families, people not wanting to seek help because A, they're not aware of their symptoms or what is happening to them, or B, they just don't know where to go and how to get started. So I've thrown in a couple of points here and I've bundled it all together. I know it's a lot, but ladies, you have time. So once again, I'll throw it back and perhaps kick off with Jasmine, and then Karen, you can jump in as well. Over to you, Jasmine.
Yeah, that is a lot of bundle of information to tease apart. Well, just let me collect my thoughts here for a minute. I believe with a lot of information available online, a lot of people can play Dr. Google also, right? And find out their symptoms. So sometimes I also have clients coming to me that says, "I think I have ADHD, or I think I have anxiety," and they tell me everything about what Google listed about what anxiety is and what whatever they have read on Google. So I think media has its good about providing a lot of information, but also it can't replace a diagnosis or an assessment where you have to do it face-to-face, or there are other information that is not available on Google. That's why the person comes to therapy for, right? I think with also a lot of information out there, people are also more well-versed, and they are also more open to seeking help. When the media also portrays a lot of therapy sessions in shows, in TV shows, to also normalize it, there's also a lot of advertisement and advocacy about mental wellness and mental illness in the media, and that also helps people maybe reach out more, especially in the millennial generation. I think they really take charge of their mental wellness really well, even though they don't really have a mental illness. They want to improve themselves, and they want to be better, or to manage any emotions better. And I think that is a really great mindset, and that is a lot of clients that I see also come for their own personal development per se, not because they have something wrong, but they just want to be better, or feel better, or be stronger, or think better. What's your experience, Karen?
Thanks, Jasmine. So I think the question here is whether people are keen to seek help, and in particular, pertaining to maybe teens, adolescents, and families. So I just want to say that I echo what Jasmine said about people having more awareness now. And in fact, my ex-colleagues at KKH, they are seeing this, flood of cases, right, in the child and adolescents wards as well as outpatient setting. So, especially after the RVHS incident, and I don't think it's a case of people not wanting to come forward. And I think there can be a myriad of different factors that makes it difficult. One is awareness. So for instance, recently Calm Collective Asia, they actually set up a talk, and the topic is navigating mental health care. And what is really interesting is, even though there's so much information out there on the web, many people in Singapore still don't know how to access mental health care in Singapore. Yeah, so maybe it's not, a sort of case whereby people are not willing. Maybe they are not aware of how to. And also, there can be other factors. For instance, certain families or parents can't, actually bring their children for appointments because they're so busy. Or for instance, they are very burdened with healthcare responsibilities for their own parents, or they themselves might struggle from mental health issues. So there can be many, many different reasons why people are not, coming forward to seek help, especially for children and adolescents. Yeah. And back to you, Augustine.
Ladies. So once again, Jasmine, Karen, thank you so much. I know I tend to overpackage my questions, so pick whatever speaks to your heart and your mind, all right? So don't worry about it. But for our viewers, just to bring them up to speed, and we do have international viewers who happen to find LCCS Real Conversations, so I will just do a quick recap. So as Jasmine mentioned, it's happening all over the world. People start to play Google Doctor and they go and read up everything and they come in practically with a diagnosis. I could be guilty of that myself, all right? And young people are more aware because the very media that they consume, sometimes in the music videos, in the dramas and the programs that they watch, these themes are coming out. So kudos to the producers and the script writers who are in touch with the reality on the ground, and they're bringing these themes into the stories that they produce. And journalists, of course, are trying their best to raise awareness. But I like your point, Jasmine, about the face-to-face. Nothing takes that away. Eventually, it's important to have that face-to-face conversation with professionals like yourselves who can really help, because every person is different. Correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone is an individual, and we can't sort of generalize and say, oh, this is what you're going through, and let me just give you the ABC out of this. So I hope that can be picked up by our viewers, and of course, please come back to it. For Karen, you summarized it very well when you said whether people are keen to seek help. So I thought that question spoke to me, and I hope our viewers are also picking up. And for our overseas viewers, KKH is the KK Hospital in Singapore. Am I right, Karen? If you could just nod your head. Yeah, it's for children. So more number of cases. And the RVS case that you referred to is the very recent tragic situation of the alleged murder with young people in the school, River Valley School. It's still in the courts, and so I will not say anything further. The investigations are ongoing. But this is very real. It's happened in Singapore. It brings up a lot of questions and the need to talk. Parents are busy, can't bring their children or their teenagers, or even to accompany someone who wants to seek help or needs to see one of you. We need to come back to this topic about how we can journey with individuals who are going through this. And please, if I forget, both Jasmine and Karen, please bring this up, because we are now almost at the midpoint. And so actually we have quite a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm going to push on, all right? Half of all mental illnesses begin by the age of 14. 3/4 by the time we hit our mid-20s. This is not Augustine's theory. This is empirical evidence out there. And that was from an OECD 2018 report. And again, from the World Health Organization, also a 2018 report, half of all mental illnesses begin by the age of 14, but most cases go undetected and untreated. Now, I'm also a journalist, and the fact that I'm bringing up, you could say, Augustine, you're taking some stuff that is quite old, but I deliberately chose the 2018 reports to say, so far back already evidence is out there, and yet people are not paying attention, or people are in denial, or people are not wanting to be aware. I'm sort of like just putting the thing back to both of you. Karen, do you want to kick it off, your response to what I've just highlighted?
Yeah, so I think, when we look at that statistics, it is quite shocking, right? That, a lot of mental health issues start when people are younger. And a lot of them, when left untreated, will actually progress onto more issues in adulthood as well. So I really echo your point, Augustine, about, addressing barriers that prevent people from seeking help earlier, and how can we journal with families, with children, with adolescents to do so. So when I was working at KK and the community, I work with a lot of children, adolescents, and families, and I hear their stories of how it can be tricky to actually engage with services. So when we think about children not receiving services, we can automatically sort of start to perhaps judge the parents for them, but perhaps having some empathy and compassion for the parents on what kind of difficulties that prevent them from actually bring their children to services would also be very helpful. And with that empathy and compassion, we can see how we can start to change the trajectory of the child's lives. So over to you, Jasmine.
I do echo you. I think sometimes mental health conditions are also very difficult to detect. It's not like depression. It's not like depression has a typical look of just sadness, because there is also something called mask depression or high functioning anxiety, whereby people can also be very high performing, or people can also be very elated even though they have depression because they wear a mask. So I think especially when we are when we are living in the same household and life is so busy, sometimes it's very easy to miss the signs of these mental illnesses. But what's important, I think, it is to keep the connection and keep the interaction, keep the conversations going. A simple, "Are you okay?" is a very important question to ask one another periodically, even though you're living with someone. Over to you, Augustine.
Thank you, Jasmine and Karen. So we're fast reaching the midpoint. You see, time just goes by as we are, having this conversation. But I wanted to bring up this other area that was, really, to be very honest, I heard it from our conversations leading up to the program, and I went to do research, and this area called catfishing. So I went online and I came across this very interesting sharing. It's actually someone who wrote to a licensed psychotherapist saying, I'm calling myself accidental catfisher, and this person basically feels that he doesn't look good and no one will accept him in real life, and he hides behind the computer and tries to develop a relationship with someone, and he succeeds. And he's reached a crucial point where it's, do I go the next step and meet this person that I've been talking to for such a long time, or do I continue to hide? And the licensed psychotherapist, this was an actual case in the US, in the United States, says you can disappear and ghost her, you can break up, or you can come clean in person and actually meet this person. And of course, it ends by saying ultimately it's what do you want? We all want to be loved and accepted. But ladies, I wanted to bring this out to build on what you just said. in 2021, there's a lot of other things that are happening that we never had back in the old days. You know, it's probably letter writing and sending a photograph and stuff like that. So we have this challenge. If you want to, would you like to address this particular case that I just brought up, or from your own case files that you have come across? Is this another new phenomenon, or it's always been there but it's taking a different shape and form, so to speak? Over to you, Jasmine and Karen. Whoever wants to kick off, go ahead.
Well, I think because this is the digital age, even dating is also done online. So a lot of times when a lot of the interaction is also done online, whereby we also can mask our identities. And so phenomenons like catfishing is also can be quite a common phenomenon in the digital age now. They not only affect adults, but also children, right? Also give access to people to mask their identities to also interact with children on the other side of the spectrum, which leads to a lot of the dangers of the online world, of perpetrators kind of interacting with youth and pretending to be someone else for connection, for friendship, for a sense of belonging, because maybe these perpetrators don't really feel a sense of belonging in society, and so they resort to the online world instead of the offline world. In the case of in the dating world, it's also easy to be caught in a story, and a story can become a bigger story to cover up the old story. And I think that's how accidental catfishing can happen. But it also takes a toll on the mental health of the victims. It's extremely damaging because in that time, the victims can also be emotionally invested in the friendship or the romantic relationship, and they think that it's real, and that affects their trust in relationships, in their professional and their personal lives. What are your thoughts, Karen?
Thanks, Jasmine. So, from what I understand, the definition of catfishing, it's using this fake pictures or fake identity, and I guess what is also pertinent to consider is what is the function of the catfishing behavior. So, is the function is to scam a person, or is the function actually to be like the sort of case study that Augustine brought up, to be loved by someone else when they seem to appear better, right? When they look better. So a lot of people, as we talk about, they tend to, feel maybe less good about themselves when they compare their looks with others on social media. And this can lead to a sense of shame, right? And that psychotherapy is talking about how, using self-compassion is a really, really good antidote to that. And just going back to, the fact that a lot of people, they start to sort of use fake photos. There is this app that's called Facetune. So I just did a quick Google before today's session, and I realized it's the top 4 best-selling Apple app, right? So it's very popular, and for most people to be willing to part money to pay for an ad, right, means that it's something that is quite maybe important to them, or something that they view to be very valuable. So it seems that altering photos to look better, is not the exception, but rather the norm. So, I think many people might alter their photos, maybe not to scam others, but maybe to look better. And what that case study was talking about, they want to look better in order to be loved, in order to be accepted by others. Yeah, and I think, showing themselves compassion by knowing that they are more than their appearances would be very, very important and crucial. Yeah. Back to you, Augustine.
Thank you both, Jasmine and Karen. Truly, I'm listening to both of you, and I'm constantly taking notes on my pad here. So much to learn. So just for our viewers who've just tuned in, you're actually watching the REALink conversation series, and just to do a quick recap, this is the 9th session in our series, and we're placing the spotlight on a range of topics that matter in our society. Today, mental wellness and the digital age. But the overall theme for this year is rebuilding the community, and I'm your host and moderator, Augustine Aswan, and of course with us are Dr. Jasmine and Dr. Karen, both psychologists by profession, and we're discussing mental wellness in the digital age. This is also an LCCS fundraising campaign, so we once again like to seek your support to gift a donation using the QR code at the bottom of your screen, as well as in the comments section, and you'll be glad to know that all your donations will be eligible for a 1-for-1 matching, as REALink is part of the Tote Board Enhanced Fundraising Program. All donations above $10 are eligible for the 250% tax deduction that will go towards supporting LCCS and empowering and engaging individuals and families to build and restore relationships. And precisely on that last point that I just shared, a question has come in, Jasmine and Karen. I'll just read this verbatim. With everyone grappling with the ill effects of living amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, what are some signs we can look out for that family members or colleagues aren't coping? What are some helpful things that we can do or say? So just to recap that last line, what are some signs we can look out for family members or colleagues who aren't coping, and what are helpful things we can do or say? Karen, maybe you want to kick it off to this question?
Yeah, and this is a really, really important question you're asking, Augustine. I think there is this survey that came out yesterday. So correct me if I'm wrong about the statistics. So I think 3 out of 4 people in Singapore actually said that they feel quite low or depressed since the COVID started. And this is not surprising because of so many changes and maybe losses in freedom and autonomy that we experienced during this period. And I highlight what Jasmine said just now is asking whether each of us are okay, right? So just a simple sort of checking in with each other is really important. And when we notice our friends and family behaving very differently from how they are, usually like, for instance, someone who is, usually very interested in engaging hobbies, suddenly stop their hobbies altogether, just lying in bed the whole day, and they start to, not care about their grooming, not bathing, not taking care of their hygiene, and also putting away their work. So if their functioning drastically changes from how they are usually like, I think that is a cause for concern. Would you like to add anything, Jasmine?
Yeah, I think just to add on to what you say, I think the change of behavior is one thing to take note. Another change of behavior, another change to look out for would be the change in mood. So some people can be more quiet, or more keeping to themselves, or more isolating themselves in the room. Another sign would be they get more irritable. They get more angry easily. Maybe some of the helpful things to say, or another sign would be like a change in sleep pattern, like staying up late till the night, or having a reverse sleep pattern, or changes in appetite. Those are all the pertinent signs that someone is going through maybe a bout of depression or anxiety. Maybe some of the helpful things to say would be an observation, and to say like, I notice this and I am concerned. I'm wondering if you are coping, or how's work going, or are you stressed? I think that opening up of a conversation is a hand reaching out to the individual.
I believe we're always worried about, what is it we should say. I'm just glancing at my clock here. We are nicely into the home stretch. In fact, that question and both your interventions has brought us into the next phase, which I've entitled, "How are you helping?" and also taking action, right? Empowering the child, the teenager, the adult. So picking up on both your sharing, sometimes we get very preoccupied with how should I respond, or what should I say, and how should I couch my response. So there's a lot of help once again online. I mean, even suggestions on how you should even phrase your questions. But I'd like to hear from both of you, because you're both practitioners and you see this in real life, you see clients. I mean, you've already said it earlier, versus the good stuff that you can find online and the need to have that face-to-face conversation. It's always hard, right, to finally make that decision to move to the next step, to say, okay, I think I have done enough on my own, I need to see someone. What would you want to say to both doctors? What would you want to say to people who are watching this? And this program will be placed online on Facebook and YouTube, so someone will find this later. What should happen? Karen, you want to kick off?
So, Augustine, you are asking us, what is something that we would say to someone to proactively seek help? And again, this is, a very, very good question, and, something that important to have conversations about. So, I think a lot of people perhaps are, reluctant to seek help because of stigma. Maybe stigma of being judged by others, or in terms of how they view themselves as well. And also it can be because of, the cost of services as well, mental health services. So that is another barrier that people can actually, be reluctant to seek help. And I just want to say that, at the end of the day, our well-being is the most important. And, just checking in, with what is most important to them. Is it, keeping face more important? Is it, keeping that money more important? Or, maintaining their mental health is more important. And generally, I think mental health, be it physical health or mental health, it is the foundation. And without that foundation, all else, would actually collapse. Right. So I think, allowing ourselves to actually take that step to seek help. Yeah, it's, an act of self-compassion, and also it's something that would actually benefit them in the long run and allow them to live a life that's aligned with their values and what is most important to them. Over to you, Jasmine.
I think the stigma, although a lot of work for the past few years have been trying to improve or remove the stigma, I think we still have a lot more work to do, because it's still there. Mental illness is still not looked at with the same severity or the same lens as someone with a physical illness, and I think back to what I was saying before about starting conversations in the family and within the family itself. Because of work from home, we are always around family, and the irony is that even though we are around them a lot, we don't really ask, "How are you?" And I think just maybe a listening ear or that concern can help the other person kind of open up to talk about their struggles. And I think that conversation can also encourage a deeper conversation as to what kind of help do you need? Or what do you think I can do to make you feel better? So these are the questions that can be asked to the individual who is in pain or suffering. Or do you think it's time we seek help externally? Maybe I can make the appointment for you. So doing the practical stuff or looking for a doctor for the person might also help ease the burden and also show support in that way. Yeah. Anything else to add, Karen?
I think, Jasmine, you had a very, very important point, which is actually supporting the person to make the first step, because often the first step is the hardest part, right? So supporting them, perhaps accompanying them to the clinic or getting the information for them, I think that actually helps to segue them into the process of seeking help. And I do have, a lot of clients who actually start to seek help because of the care and concern from family members, right? So I think that human relationship is very powerful in encouraging people to actually take the first step to, taking better care of their mental health and seeking mental health services.
Home stretch, and there's so many questions here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just bundle them, and then once again you decide what you think is important to share for today's program on the REALink Conversation series. I tend to do this thing called echoing. So I'm going to pull out some of your points that spoke to me. Stigma is one. The cost of mental health services is another. And then also, how are we listening to our family members or to someone that we care about, a colleague? And of course, the first step is always the hardest. And journeying with this person. I mean, sometimes the best thing we could do is just go with someone, take time off, accompany them. But I do have concerns about technology, the very technology, as you said, not to demonize it, but this over-reliance on apps and taking this meditation app and I'll be fine and I'll just do this and it'll be okay. And we may not be seeing the symptoms of something that's a lot more serious. So in closing, I would like to hear your thoughts. And the final part of our discussion is what needs to change. We've heard so much about on the individual levels and families and even colleagues in office, but I did some research, and even in South Korea, for example, there's actually legislation that prevents children from playing games from a residential IP address between midnight and 6 a.m. I know it's bad news for some people, they may not like this, but they actually have this sort of interventions at the national level, at governments. I mean, in the UK, they're looking at the impact of social media on children's well-being. So there's a lot being done for children because it's our responsibility to care for them. But once they become adults, and the age for an adult varies from country to country, even here in Asia, there's only so much we can do. So in this home stretch, both yourselves, what do you think needs to change? I mean, apart from that stigma that you already addressed and media having a responsibility to do stories about mental health and mental wellness, what more do you want to see change? Karen, you want to kick it off?
So I think, taking care of our collective mental health, it's really a multifaceted issue. And like what we talk about, there can be many, many different factors that are barriers to people seeking help and support, especially in this digital age. So in this hyper-connected world, even though it seems like we are connected, sometimes not so much, right? The connection is not deep. Yeah. And what I really want to see, happening is more of a connection between different stakeholders. So what I mean is perhaps, connection between families, between schools, young adults, children, workplace. So really a synergy of different agencies and collaboration. Because I think, when one person or one, system works in silo, it's not as powerful as the whole system working together. And I think, this COVID, the silver lining is that we have started to talk about mental health. So not just mental health with the young people, especially with the RVHS situation that happened, but also, well-being at workplace, right? And also when people are working from home. So having this conversation now is very, very important, and us as a society thinking about how each stakeholders can actually contribute to it is very important. So also just going back to adolescents and children. So sometimes we might think, okay, perhaps, adolescents, they don't really know how to control their own usage of social media, for instance, they're addicted to it. And when I was teaching the students at NTU, what I realized is that they are aware of the issue and they know that, spending too much time on social media is very unhelpful, right? And actually engaging in stakeholders such as young people and adolescents on how we can actually address such issues and also improve their collective mental health would be crucial and the next step moving forward. Okay, over to you, Jasmine.
I think I echo your thoughts about connecting key stakeholders together. And I think this REALink conversations is the epitome of what it really is connecting us professionals with Augustine, who moderates this conversation surrounding mental wellness. And also it's so readily available that it's on platforms that can even reach like internationally. So this is what the good side of technology is. Like one of my key messages is don't demonize technology, because technology can also be used for a lot of good. Like there's a lot of digital platforms that are available and digital health interventions, podcasts about self-compassion or about mindfulness or about mental wellness, or even even if when people are strapped for cash and they don't have access to good mental health clinics, or even the availabilities of our appointments can be very far away, and so there's a lapse time or waiting time in between. People can also turn to technology because there are also computerized cognitive behavioral therapy programs that can also aid people with depression or anxiety for adolescents and young adults. And these programs also show promising signs to help with mental wellness while they are waiting for an appointment, or if they don't have access or they don't want to visit a mental health professional because of stigma. I think with regards to the measures put in place, Korea is one of them. UK is also starting conversations about how to protect the use of media use for children. China has just passed a law to limit video gamings for 3 hours a week over the weekend, to limit addiction and so that it's also not a burden on society. So I think this is a new space, but just with everything, moderation is key, and it's about trying to find the right balance between the good of technology and to limit the harm of technology on society. Over to you.
Once again, listening to both of you, it was so nice to, at least for me, I'm connecting the dots, and it goes back to what you both started with, your key messages, and I can see that consistently flowing through in our conversation. And just for our viewers to understand, and for anyone who happens to come across this program later on Facebook or YouTube, this conversation is not meant to give you the answers within 60 minutes. It's really meant to spark discussion And hopefully after this, you will go online and find out more about all the things that we brought up. And there's so much more out there. But in my own little research that I did, mindfulness meditation delivered via a mobile app, according to the research that's been done, does seem to have an effect in a positive way, and it seems to be helping reduce stress among students who have access to it. But you know, everything that we have said, there's a lack of awareness as well. So we hope this conversation is also creating awareness for you to go and do your own homework, whether you're a teenager or a parent, and then to contact, of course, please always reach out to LCCS, and the team will respond to your comments and your queries, and they will follow up on all your questions and suggestions that you put into the comment box, all right? And also, of course, very interesting points that goes back to the very beginning about this importance about common humanity. I like this phrase. I'm never going to forget this from now onwards, because I went to do more search on that. And I like what also was said about unplugging to recharge. So ladies, at this point, I want to just quickly take a short pause here and to thank you both for your sharing. And we have this little gift that I'm holding up. You can't really see it. It's called the Fables Talk. And this is going to be out very soon, later this year. Please do look out for it. It's a set of cards. It's a deck of cards, and you'll find stories that exemplify LCCS's working principles, which is respecting the individual's voice, the space, and of course, relational inclusion. And it comes also with some critical thinking questions at the back. It's a project of LCCS, and so this is our humble way of saying thank you to both of you for sharing your time with us today on this program. But we're not done yet. We still have a few minutes before we close. And so I want to come back to both of you in this closing segment of our program. As part of your closing thoughts, you've highlighted that there's a need to have more conversation and not to be in silos, and to come in as a societal level. I personally believe that's very important, and I sincerely hope people are watching this program and there'll be a lot more discussion. And I hope there are more people who also fall in love with the social work, with psychology, and may even consider professions like what both you doctors are doing, and how you're helping people and families. But in closing, doctors, what would you like to leave with this? And of course, you're free to go back to your key points once again. Perhaps kick off with Jasmine, your closing thoughts for all of us.
I think conversations are key, and it also promotes connection in a different way, and disconnection from technology to connect to something that is real, that is also longer lasting, and that has a huge impact on mental wellness, feeling connected with your family. Over to you, Karen.
Thanks, Jasmine. So just going back to my top 3 messages, which are awareness and connection. That's one. The second one is common humanity, as Augustine has very nicely highlighted. And last but not least is, self-kindness and compassion. So really, I think, going back to awareness is having this balance as well, and having this, a connection with each other. Common humanity is that when we recognize that we are suffering, so for instance, as adults in this work from home situation, others are also likely suffering as well, right? When we have to do Zoom calls day in and day out. Yeah. And last but not least is offering ourselves kindness when we recognize that, we are suffering. So for instance, if we are doing Zoom call and we recognize that our body is really tense, we are just exhausted, we haven't eaten anything for the day. So just give ourselves the permission to just rest and take a break. And I hope that is something that all of you can practice in small ways every day. Thank you. Back to you, Augustine.
Fully said. Jasmine, Karen, and once again, the beauty of this program is it's all there online, and so we can always go back and refer to it. And please do share the link to this conversation with your friends, so that more people can become aware and start reflecting on the numerous points that have been raised. In closing, I mean, you're probably going to get a hint of my age when I start sharing this. In the old days, you go to a public phone, and next to it, sometimes you have these little signs and even, help phone numbers and stuff like that. Those are disappearing. We live with technology in our hands, even children. But in the modern bus stops, you have these moving images and signs, and messages are out there as you wait for your bus or as you're waiting for your train, where these messages are reminding us that we need to be aware of mental wellness in this age that we live in. Today's REALink conversation is really to spark conversation, to invite you to come back and to connect with us here at LCCS, and we sincerely hope you will do that. And of course, you're most welcome to reach out to both Jasmine and Karen, and continue the conversation. But as we draw to a close, I just wanted to highlight to all of you that this is continuing, and our next REALink virtual conversation session will be taking place on Friday, the 15th of October at 7:30 p.m., same time. Our guest speakers will be Tan Keng Jin and Tan En, and they will be both exploring re-engaging volunteerism during COVID-19. It's interesting as you see the sessions planned out over the 12 sessions that we have, there is definitely a thread that brings it all together. But having shared that with you, it's once again my pleasure, and looking at the clock, really need to bring this to a close. I want to say this in my personal capacity. Of course, I hope the LCCS team and the organizing committee is listening to this. Ladies, I'll be very happy to meet both of you again and do another session with both of you, hopefully with better COVID circumstances, where we can sit together and have perhaps even a little small gathering of a live audience where we can have an interactive session. So Augustine is ready to do it again anytime. Just let us know. But on that note, we want to thank you both, Dr. Jasmine Yeo and Dr. Karen Pooh, for making time and for really sharing from your heart your ideas. And we hope that all of you who are watching will continue to stay with us. We have this tradition. We never say goodbye. We just say the journey continues. So stay with us. I'm Augustine Antoine, as always. Happy to be part of the LCCS REALink Virtual Conversation Series. Once again, thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, Karen, and thank you all of you out in the virtual world. Please continue to keep in touch. Bye for now.